One of the challenges in having most of your team members working remotely is training. Before, it was easy to organize on-site training and ensure that everyone was updated and educated across the entire department, division, or company. Today, most companies are using some form of independent learning, with managers hoping that everyone is up to speed on new procedures, protocol systems, and so forth. But how do you know if everyone has watched the training video or the screencast outlining a new protocol? This can be particularly critical for areas where a lack of knowledge can lead to costly mistakes. Beyond that, there's also the matter of keeping a team of people working remotely feeling like they're still part of a team and engaged in the company culture. The solution that's helping to solve this are learning management systems. These fairly easy to install programs take the typical training video library and turn it into an organized system that managers can use to monitor employee training. I'm Jane Singer, and welcome to A Seat at the Table. Today I'm speaking with Steve Peckman, founder of Eclipse Learning Partners. Steve has spent over 2 decades working with companies to create internal career development and training systems, as well as process and change management programs. He's been able to develop programs that are well aligned with the company's business objectives and also offer a great user experience. Through Eclipse Learning Partners, Steve is taking learning management to the next level by helping companies create a team spirit amongst employees who are pretty dispirited by now working from home, as well as keeping them up to speed on important skills and protocol. Thank you so much for joining us today, Steve. Before we get started, if you're looking for a sharp view of global sourcing, or you're struggling to get your quarterly sourcing reports done, you might want to take a look at the current situation in sourcing. These executive snapshot reports include all the insights and data you need without you having to do the work. If you'd like more information, there's a link in the show notes here. Steve, thanks for joining us today. Everything has been going in the direction of more technology, of digitization, no doubt, with or without the pandemic. But the pandemic has really put this on steroids, and it's given people challenges in terms of managing their staff that they never dreamed of. A lot of what you've been talking to me about that you're working on really touches on many of these challenges. And it seems like what you've been developing helps people manage all of this in a much more seamless and intuitive way.
Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this as well. So the key business problem that my company solves is that, first of all, as someone who's had a career in training, I've been part of the leadership teams of several different companies and leading up training efforts for these companies and being a partner to connect what the organizational learning is to the business. And then the enabling technology in this case is a learning management system platform, and that gives the reach of the education to be anytime, anywhere. You post the training content, whatever it is, and that everyone in the organization has access to it wherever they are. It's cloud-based. You don't have to sign into to get through a firewall or through the VPN or anything like that. It's mobile ready, so you can look at it on your computer, you can look at it on your tablet, you're on your phone, have a learning experience. And the learning experiences can range to be very process oriented, or do a software training rollout, or can be really anything. It can be a weekly address from the CEO or from the head of sales or whomever, and can be also used for some more lighthearted events. Also, you could do that to just keep people connected through the time. Also, because the two main missions of the education are besides the knowledge, are just keeping connected and keeping the company culture. Because when you're in the same office building together, everyone's there. They're around the water cooler. They're having maybe some event out in the parking lot, or some after work or before work thing, and people are going out to lunch with each other and mixing. And this enables that to happen as well.
I think that's really interesting, and it seems that there's 2 different components here. One of which is the on-demand learning.
Yes.
Where people can learn at their own pace, at their own time frame, whatever works for them. And then it seems you have the other component, which is more of a team building, right? A socializing component.
Yes.
So how would that differentiate from, let's say, a Zoom meeting?
Well, a Zoom meeting is kind of an instance. It's a moment in time. And whether you record it or not is another story. But a Zoom meeting happens, and then when it's over, it's over. It's out. In what happened. Someone maybe had taken meeting notes, minutes or something like that. But the meeting is over. And actually, a recorded Zoom meeting can be part of something that gets posted to a learning management system that could be a little bit more long lasting. But what the learning management system enables is that you have trackability of who was there at the meeting from the minutes or someone was taking notes. But the learning management system can tell you for an event that didn't happen only at Tuesday at 8 a.m. who viewed the material, who stayed through the whole thing, and and if you wanted to put a test at the end of it or something where someone had to submit their notes of their thoughts at the end of it, you have the ability to have it be a little bit more engaging, that you can have, okay, I was at this meeting and everyone has a seat at the table. Whether they were there at Tuesday at 8 a.m. or not, it doesn't matter. So I was there. Here are my thoughts about what was covered, and that the person who is moderating the meeting, or in this case, the person who was the trainer, quote unquote, would get feedback from everyone there and get their thoughts about what happened in the meeting. And so whether they thought about it while they were sitting at the table, or whether they thought about it later, or they watched the video and took a walk and thought about the issue for a little bit longer and said, I know the answer to this, and they have the ability to rewatch it and make some thoughtful comments on it.
So in other words, if you weren't able to attend the meeting, you could then watch the recap of the meeting and then weigh in with your thoughts.
Yes.
And so the importance of this really is, on the one hand, it gives people the opportunity to participate, even if they weren't able to physically be there or join in at the time when the meeting was held. But on the other side of it, it enables management to have a feeling of who's there and not, so that you don't have people who are theoretically working remotely, but they're not doing a lot.
Correct. And everyone, and some people may not feel comfortable in speaking around the table while it's happening, too, about composing their thoughts. But in hearing those people, you might get an idea that you might not have gotten in a conventional setting.
Right. Yeah, I think that's actually really good.
The other part of it about the trackability I just want to go back to is that twice in my last company that I worked for with the learning management system, we were going to be audited for a certain capability of the company. So the two capabilities were HIPAA, because the company was producing medical devices, and the second one was about information security, which is a worldwide standard called ISO 27001. And so in both instances, I collaborated with the subject matter experts, put together training programs, put together a test, posted the test, and I was able to demonstrate to the auditors when it came time for each of those different initiatives that, yes, everyone in the company had viewed the material, had passed the tests, and here are the time date stamps of when they finished the test, and we have 100% participation in the whole company. And it was really that the audit was, usually that word strikes fear in the hearts of people. But I went in there and I was holding the best hand in the deck. So I was very, very confident walking in there. I was able to demonstrate very easily for that we had 100% participation, and I was in and out of there in 10 minutes.
Oh, that's great. I think that's a very, very good point, because nowadays more and more industries have a lot more certificates.
Yes.
That people need to have. Some of them are quite stringent, for example, medical, as you said, or the financial sector. Others are a little more relaxed, but still there's the expectation that people working in different areas have achieved certain levels of knowledge or have specific certifications. So to be able to coordinate that, train people, administer tests, and then keep a log of who is up to date, because some of these things expire. So the fact that you have a time-stamped log is very important.
Right. And then multiply that times the challenge that the pandemic brings of everyone being remote and not in the same place, and whose computer is that file log on. Is it posted in a central place, or is it on someone in the home office in Tokyo? This way it's cloud based, and the people have access. Designated people have access to who's in and who's yet to achieve the certification.
Oh, that's really good. That's another point as well. That people are facing with data is, on the one hand, it took a lot of the load of having paper filing systems, but on the other hand, it can oftentimes be just as problematic to find files and figure out what server they're on or what drive or where, or especially if it's something that you haven't had to access very recently.
The other part, the extension of the certifications, is that you can create your own internal badges, merit badges, if you will, from scouting times, or certifications of a more serious nature, that you can say, oh well, this person has taken this course, that course, and the other course, and when you take those 3 courses together, you get a ninja badge. And then you could you can print out the ninja certificate and put it at their desk, or you make a badge for them to put on their social media page or Slack page or whatever, that says that this person has achieved the ninja certification, and make it sort of a status thing. And also, on a more serious note, that if someone's taken a series of classes and certified in these 3 areas, that's something that makes annual reviews a lot easier to do, and could be attached to some monetary thing as well. That someone has a greater deal of seniority, or is entitled to to be in a different pay range.
Yeah, I think it's great. First of all, people like that. The recognition, but you're right, it encourages people to go the extra mile, to make the effort, to get the extra education, to achieve another level of certification, to put in their time, because there's always what the company requires you to do, right? And then there is the extra bit that you could do if you wanted to, that would enhance your knowledge and therefore, theoretically make you better at your job. So to reward people for that publicly with something, a badge is not huge, but it's meaningful to people.
Absolutely.
And it encourages other people in the company to do that. So I think that's really excellent.
Yep. And another thing that a learning management system can enable you, because you could take a course that has been taken internally and combine it with an external certification, like something like OSHA here in the U.S. that people take for some safety standards, and you combine it with a technical certification that you might get from a technical vendor like Cisco or something like that. So you take the internal stuff, that the internal classes that you've taken, combine that with an OSHA, and combine that with a Cisco technical certification, and then you can bring those 3 things together from 3 different sources and make a badge of that as well.
Oh, that's really good. I think just in general, this whole area of sort of self-education, as you might say, where you're studying on your own, has become so important. And I think that companies are trying to find ways that they can help their employees to, improve what they're doing and become more efficient, to become more of an expert in areas. So to be able to incorporate it into a system like this and provide a lot of this in an organized way is great.
Yes, and you said self-training, but I think that this kind of brings it to a more community. There's a community element that gets introduced as well, because you're taking the class in Hong Kong, I'm taking the class in New Jersey, but we're taking those classes together in effect.
Right.
And so there's a community, and it's like, oh well, Jane and I are both ninjas now, and so we can talk on a different level now because we've both attained this thing. So yes, it's asynchronous in a way that you're taking your class on your time and I'm taking mine on mine, but we're doing it together, and we're building a company culture of learning, which makes us more valuable to the company and makes the company more valuable in total. We're selling more stuff, or we're preventing costs from leaking out the company. So these things have the underlying mission of In the end, you've got to be either making more money or saving time, which, time being money, both of those things would be important to companies. So it's about productivity and it's about profitability.
Yeah, definitely. I think that people are trying to find ways, like you say, to bring a socialization side of things, particularly when people have been forced to distance during the pandemic. In terms of any of the learning, is it possible to do these things as some sort of a group class?
Absolutely. So if you think of a course as as many modules, a module can be a PowerPoint slide deck that has been narrated. It can be a PDF that someone can read. It can be a movie that someone can watch, and it can be a Zoom meeting to attend. So that so part of that mission of completing that course is having attended this Zoom class, and maybe the Zoom class is offered 4 times in that month where people are expected to do things, and you're expected to show up at one of those 4 things. So it can be asynchronous and also can have a synchronous element to it as well.
Right, so you could do it sort of as a Zoom kind of a class where everybody signs in at once and you see the other people there, and there's sort of a teacher who's a moderator and so forth.
Absolutely. So that can be a module in the course, is attending that Zoom meeting.
Anything that enables people to get past some of the barriers that we feel when we're doing this kind of a distance situation is really valuable.
And it's, people are having to shift their time around too. I mean, so in the pre-pandemic world of going to the office, people are expected to be in the office from 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night or something like this. And now with the pandemic, kids are attending school from home, and so that parents have to step away and tend to them, and people have to go out and walk their dog a couple times a day, maybe. And this kind of learning also feeds in well with kind of modern life as it is right now as well, from everyone working from home and competing. I don't want to minimize children or pets by saying that they're distractions, but there's other there are other things happening in your home that you wouldn't be necessarily thinking about as much as if you were in your office.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's always been one of the challenges of that work from home lifestyle. It's hard when you're home. It's very difficult not to be distracted by other things that you want to get done, or people there who are not part of your work team who want to talk to you, or it's there's a couple of dishes in the sink, and I want to take care of that. Yeah, something on TV, need to catch that. As a manager, if you have a very large staff of people who used to be in the office doing desk work and are now working from home without on-site supervision, even if it's not very draconian supervision, but the boss is walking around, so you better be doing something, or at least looking like you're doing something.
There was that whole management theory of manage by walking around. I mean, it was a thing.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the many challenges that companies are facing in terms of how is productivity going to be. I mean, in the short run, of course, everybody was more relaxed because we had to make do with this crisis situation. How do we realistically get back up to speed?
Even just with the how prolific Zoom has become this year, I think that people will weigh more that they'll say, how many times do I actually need to go to the other coast of the country, travel there for a 2-hour meeting? How many of those can I realistically do on Zoom and save myself the time and aggravation from traveling all that? I mean, the technology has been there all along, but we weren't paying attention to it as much before.
Well, that's very true, and I think that that's a very good point. And we're certainly seeing that here. And like you say, the technology's been there for a long time, but there wasn't the need. It's just like with the fax machine, which was developed, I believe, in the late 1800s, but it didn't really gain speed until around 1990, I don't know what, right? No one was sending faxes because there was just no particular need for that. And then all of a sudden there was a need. And I think some of the services that you and your company have been working on developing are going to play a key role in enabling people to take what's become a basic Zoom meeting into something far more advanced.
Definitely, it's something that lasts longer than the moment that it happens, and for sure.
I think a lot of it's going to be coming through in those additional capabilities.
Definitely, and the learning management system have been there also as waiting in the shadows for its time in the spotlight. This technology can ride a similar wave than Zoom, although I don't see it having the household name appeal as Zoom calls.
Well, I think that Zoom is a more consumer-based product, although it is being used, of course, for business. Whereas what you're doing with learning management systems is more of an enterprise, purpose-built for enterprise.
These are to develop skills that can pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly. So in addition to the learning management, what are some of the other technologies that you've been working on with some of your clients?
Well, really, that's the main technology piece of it. The other piece of my business has to do with the training consulting bit, and it has to do with my experience from having varied different roles in operations teams and in leadership teams and career development. It's really more of the part that surrounds the people part of what we do, and so it's really about reviewing first the people to make sure that you have the right people in the right places at the right time. You have matching task to talent, and that's connected to the processes of the company and the missions, or the organizational goals, the best practices of the company, and that you're addressing the issues that are in the company, and all of the things that, and also fitting the customer's needs in there as well, making sure that is a well-oiled machine, that everything is clicking in the right direction. So you have the people, and you have the process, and you have the goals and the customer all cohabitating in this environment together, and that the learning part of that, where people are developing themselves and building their careers, that's all serving those things that I mentioned a minute ago.
Okay, so touching upon the work that you've done and continue to do in terms of training, what do you see as the biggest challenges?
I think that the challenges are how managers work with their teams in this environment, that they are keeping the connections live, and that their company culture still reaches through the video cameras and the speakers of people's homes, that they stay connected to the mission, and that they don't feel like they're isolated. They feel like when people are working from home, that what they're doing still matters. And so I think the real challenge is for managers of companies to keep the connection and the culture live, and you have to use different methods now than when you can't get everyone together in the same room right now. I mean, that's a kind of a fact of life, and so that how do you do that? And keeping those things connected is I think is the biggest challenge.
Right. And so the way that someone would do that is really through a learning management kind of a system. That's
one way you can extend that, because as I said, as we were talking about before, the Zoom meeting happens at Tuesday at 8 a.m. If you weren't able to be there, and the learning management system makes things accessible at different times of the day.
So in terms of what you've seen people doing, are there any things that you've seen that you think are what you might call mistakes that people make, or are there things that you say people typically mishandle this or that?
One application, I'm working with this company right now that all of their training material, their technical training material, is posted as YouTube videos on their website. And anyone can see the technical training videos that they have, which is great. So they don't know who has watched which class at what time. They're a hardware manufacturer, and so if they use the learning management system, that they could say, oh, engineer X at our partner has watched A, B, and C video, but really he should watch D and E also, or maybe that engineer X watched video A last year, and now that video A has been updated because we've released a new version of our product, now version 2. He would really like to see, engineer X would really like to see that video as well.
So for the employee, this system is more organized than just giving them access to a huge portfolio of videos that they can watch in whatever order they want. And from a management point of view, you know which video each person has watched, so you understand what level of training they're at.
Yes, and the other thing with this manufacturer too is that they could say, oh well, dealer A is our best dealer, and they've sold the most of our products. And then you look and see, oh, dealer A's engineers, oh, they've watched all of our videos, and of course they've sold the most. And dealer B, if you want to be as good as dealer A, if you educate your staff more, you can sell more and be more like dealer A. So.
Yeah, interesting. What do you see as the next big thing for learning management, or whether it be managing and training employees online?
I think it has to do with the different applications and the different way to engage people with the technology. I think the technology is solid the way it is, but it has to do with the applications and case studies of how to use a learning management system to make it more engaging to people, and to have programs that are not just, I made a video, I posted the video, there it is. Okay, what next? And why is this important? So you have some follow-ups of a discussion board that's moderated by someone who's an expert in that provides more value. You have a weekly Zoom call that people can attend to just talk about that one topic that they're interested in with that subject matter expert, that they can ask some specific questions about things that they've tried. And so it's not just posting the video, it's what happens after that one-time event, of that one recorded event that opens the conversation to, okay, how do I use this to save time? How do I use this to make money?
Yeah, I think that's very important, because I think that all the training in the world can only get you so far. The ability to have these discussions, it takes it further. And it enables people, of course, to get feedback on things they don't understand, but also to learn from other people and perhaps see things that they didn't see before.
I totally agree. And that's really what I'm setting out to do with Eclipse Learning Partners, is to really apply the human factor to the machine that is a learning management system.
I think that was a good point about the human factor, because so often we can be distracted, me too, with all the bells and whistles of technology, the bright shiny object, right? And we become fascinated by that, and we forget that really it's about the people.
Absolutely. The human factor is what's going to make it beautiful in the end. All of the artificial intelligence that you have, or business intelligence tools that you have are great. It takes the human part of that to say who's seeing that, when and where and why, and making sure that the machine analysis is seen in the right lens, that it can be used to be valuable.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. Well, Steve, thank you so much. I think that you've really brought a very interesting and very experienced point of view to the table, and
thank you.
I think many people are really trying to understand what technology is the right technology, and at the same time, how should we be implementing it? It's not that the technology isn't there, but it's a big decision. And I think it's a big learning curve to see, well, okay, we can get the system, but what's the best way to be able to work with people so that it's effective for management, it's effective for the staff. So thanks again.
No, thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe to the podcast? You'll be notified each week as we release a new episode. And if you're looking for a sharp view of global sourcing, or you're struggling to get your quarterly sourcing reports done, you might want to take a look at the current situation in sourcing. These executive snapshot reports include all the insights and data you need, without you having to do the work. In other words, all that tedious work is now done for you. You can find a link for further information in the show notes here.